right, everyone, welcome back into another props betting video. Going to be touching on the top prop bets today, this Saturday. We got a bunch of various sports to get into, so let's get into that. But first, just a quick recap from yesterday. And so, guys, yesterday was a pretty massive day. The Flex Friday slip ended up hitting 6 for 6 finally. And I say finally because if you guys have been following this channel, giving out plenty of 5 for 5 slips, that included a DNP on a likely bet on like some of the better bets of the day. Which was annoying. That happened last week, Flash Friday, where we went 5 for 5, and the best bet of the day was the DNP that day, which is unfortunate, but really just a solid day yesterday. Continues a nice hot stretch that we've been on, putting our units of profit this year at 185. Okay, and the reason I'm touching on this is I don't always need to go into the results. I feel like if I do this and show people, consistent good results or vice versa, bad results, they're not going to use the information they should properly. Like, people see this, they're probably going to be maybe trusting my advice more than they should and maybe betting more than they should. Just use that as a source of information. But I think this is important to call out because you look at April. April was the first month this year that it was not profit. It was like 10 units of profit lost in the year. If you guys just took the bet of the day and used it every single day, you would have had roughly, I think it was 10 units lost. Okay, so that was one month thus far this year. And I kind of asked myself, am I doing anything wrong here? Like, what's going on? And my basic answer was no. Continue to do what you know to be successful. And now May has really been the best month thus far in 2024. And that does make sense as well. That's kind of how it goes, right? Like, typically speaking, you make the correct decisions in the long term and it's going to pay off. And so it's really not shocking that we're on this bit of a hot stretch that we are in May because, well, April, it seemed like just random stuff missing. And so I felt like that's a point I wanted to echo home. It's like, as long as you know what you're doing is like the correct process, you should be rewarding in the long term. And that's what's happening right now in May. And I will say, some slight adjustments in there, especially MLB wise, where I've been more focused on these pitching fantasy score prop bets. At the same time, early on in the season of MLB, we just weren't getting those good pitching fantasy score prop bets that we were getting. Now, the biggest change that I made, and it was a slight change, not much, it's just how I went about giving you guys the information, how I went about looking at the information, especially for these hitting fantasy scores. Like, do we have any bets that correlate? That's a focus. And so for hitting fantasy scores, that's like the slight adjustment. And so here are the best hitting fantasy score prop bets that we have. We are going to see we got 1 with Chicago, 2 with Chicago. So we do have potentially a very good stacking opportunity here, I would say. And this is something that we probably should be running out. So like with Morel and with, I don't know how to say his last name. Like, these are 2 good stacking opportunities. And I'll show you the other pitching fantasy score prop that we have to go with that. But that makes sense. That's a decent stacking opportunity that we have today. We also have a good pitching fantasy score prop bet on both sides where the projection data likes the over, the average sportsbook line likes the over with it's about 32.5. So not exactly a favorable line for the over, 50-50 to get around 32.5, but 29.5 on Underdog, 29.5 on PrizePicks. That is seemingly a good prop bet that we have. And honestly, today's looking like a better day in general today in comparison to yesterday, even though yesterday we, got 6 for 6. We do have another chance to potentially do a Baltimore stack here as well, where the projection data, the average sportsbook line likes the over for them. So do have some potential hitting fantasy score stacks, which I don't mind to do if I am going to chase some hitting fantasy score prop bets. That's probably the way I want to go. And then we look at some data that doesn't correlate just in regards to projection data. We do have one for sure good pitching fantasy score prop bet here, okay? That's going to be Gil for over his pitching fantasy score, but this is a better prop bet on Underdog, okay? On Underdog, the line is set at 33.5, and this is adjusted for PrizePicks scoring. So I think he's projected to both get a quality start and a win. I think that's what's going into this, why there isn't an adjustment. That's really the biggest difference between PrizePicks and Underdog scoring. Don't need to get into that too much. The point is, this is a good bet on paper. Now he's projected to get 32.6. Kind of, oh well. We go down to his projected innings. It's just a slight difference there. Like, if he gets one more out there, that's going to be a quality start. And so on paper, he's someone that should be a good one. And that's a prop bet that I'm running out today on Underdog with the Scotty Scheffler free square that's available. Okay, I want to make that clear. It's going to be my bet of the day there. And then here's another one here as well. This is going to be for Underdog, guys. I like the over here on Underdog. Now, I'm not exactly the same when you go out of our way to use this one on Underdog with the free square with Scotty, but this is one that I do feel comfortable pairing up. Maybe with Mackenzie Gore we could run out. Also Gil we could run out as well. This is a good prop bet on Underdog because on Underdog, the line is a little bit off. At 40.5, it's basically a 50-50 split for him to get the over or not. But at 37.5, like it is on Underdog, That's a decent edge that we have. So I wanted to call that one out to you guys. And that's, again, where, maybe you don't need to run out that stack on Underdog, but you could. Obviously, we have some good hitting fantasy score prop bets there as well. So I don't feel the need to jump into the Underdog side of this because I already touched on 3 really good pitching fantasy score prop bets that we have. And then obviously you could run out those stacks if you guys choose to do so. I do want to jump into some golf props though, and I will start out with Underdog. All right, so Underdog wise, I do think some of the lines that we are getting today are interesting, and I want to call us out. So when we look at birdie or better lines here, and then we look at strokes lines, I'm just going to be focusing on those two. I want to call us out because we look at the birdie or better lines, they have them set at 5.5. When we look at the strokes, especially in comparison to PrizePicks, and I'll show you guys the discrepancies that we have here as well, because that's going to show you guys something here. It's kind of weird. It doesn't make sense. Talk about data correlating. Underdog's not doing that with their lines today. And so this is what I mean. We have a bunch of strokes props on Underdog that are less than what they are in PrizePicks. And then when we look at the birdie or better lines, the unders, their birdie or better lines are higher than PrizePicks. So that doesn't make sense. I mean, it does make sense in the sense of why Underdog would be doing that, but the big discrepancy between the two sites doesn't exactly make sense. Like, that should not be occurring, especially today. Now, today, I will say, and I phrased that poorly, I realized that just now. Apologies there. But like today, I don't think it makes sense. The first 2 days at this tournament have played pretty easy because, well, the ground was soft, meaning it was easier to hit the green and have your ball stick on the green. I don't expect that today. So I think they're kind of overreacting. I think Underdog's overreacting to how the course played in the first 2 days. I expect Saturday to play more difficult, and this could be a way you go about betting on that. I don't think Colin Morikawa has 6 birdies in him today. Okay, I like that under. Now, maybe Xander, maybe Rory, maybe Scotty, you don't have to do that. At the same time, 6 birdies is a lot, and especially today where I think the course is going to play more difficult. Brooks Koepka, I don't see him having 6 birdies in. Justin Thomas, I really don't see him having 6 birdies in. So this one's probably going to be a push, maybe 5, 5 birdies. I just don't see that. He hasn't been playing that well consistently. And so for Underdog, we do have some good, I think, opportunities here, betting-wise. Bet the under Colin Morikawa 5.5 birdies. I don't want to touch Scotty, Xander, Rory. Those were the 3 best players in the field, really by far on paper. And I kind of expect those 3 to just continue to play well. So I don't want to touch those ones. But these other guys, JT, Colin Morikawa, I like to bet them to get under 6 birdies or better. I think that's a pretty strong bet that we have today. Okay, so I don't mind that. But again, if you guys want to do those prop line differences, this doesn't make sense. This should not be occurring. We should not be seeing these big differences here. And this, I think PrizePicks lines are better today. I think they're more accurate, a better indication of what's going to happen today. So if anything, I'm betting the overs on Underdog today. Let's go ahead and jump into NBA now. NBA wise, not too much. I do like Derek Lively to get over his fantasy score. Luka Doncic, I don't want to bet to get under. Not that big of an edge, but Derek Lively's been playing well. I can get behind that. That's kind of like Dante DiVincenzo, where you just continue to roll with the hot hand a little bit. DiVincenzo's situation was a little bit different, where his per 36 production at that line that we were getting yesterday would already suggest that he'd be able to get the over. And obviously, DiVincenzo's been someone that's been getting more run than 36 minutes, so don't mind that. But I do like the Derek Lively line that we are getting. WNBA-wise, no good prop bets. And if they want people to pay attention to WNBA, they should maybe make a deal with PrizePicks Underdog, because the lines we've been getting are trash. I mean, how do they expect us to bet on these if they're not giving us some better lines? Fantasy score-wise specifically, right? Like, that's kind of the bread and butter. That's where we typically are getting our biggest edges. And we have to scroll a long way to get a good edge here. There's no good WNBA prop bets today. Don't bet on it today. Not worth your time. From there, I mean, that's really it. Discrepancies wise, nothing much. NHL props continue to be trash. So yeah, MMA wise, COD, okay. Valorant, that's a big difference as well. Yeah, but we're still getting this MMA one. And if you guys are an MMA fan, let us know which one that is. And I'm going to send this on a tweet to one of my Occupy Fantasy coworkers that covers MMA. I want to see what his thoughts are on this. Which one's the better edge? Maybe you can help us out there. I'm going to send that on Twitter. So check out 9to5sports.com if you want to get the answer on that. And while you're there, give Nick a follow on Twitter as well. And before I get into the bet of the day, I just want to reiterate, like, today it's more difficult for me to give a specific bet of the day because, again, I do think we have a lot of potentially good stacking opportunities with Chicago and with Baltimore. So I just want to reiterate that as well. So, like, this will be the bet of the day for tracking purposes, for my, tracking purposes, to record how the bet of the day did. But at the same time, it's not like I'm saying, like, you need to make this bet. I'm just calling these out because these are good stacking opportunities, especially if you are someone maybe on Underdog that is going to be running out Chicago's pitcher for his over fantasy score as well, because again, that's a better bet there. Then obviously Gill is one of the better pitching fantasy score prop bets today, but again, we're chasing that on Underdog because the line is better on Underdog because it's lower there. So we are doing that prop bet still. That's the best bet that we have today, but we're doing that on Underdog where the edge is greater for us. Gore you can use on both sites. Okay, that's a solid one today. And then yeah, just we got some good stacking opportunities for hitting fantasy score. So hopefully take advantage of those today. And then just want to reiterate, Gill with Scotty Scheffler free square. If you want to use the pitching fantasy score for Gore or the Chicago pitcher, you can do that. We also are getting decent edges, it seems like, with Collin Morikawa under birdies or better, Justin Thomas under birdies or better as well. And just a reminder before I get out of here, if you guys are new to Underdog and have never signed up before, you want to take advantage of the Scotty Scheffler free square that they're making available to us today. Use the promo code 905. That'll help kick back money my way. Just summer months are a little bit slower, let's put it that way. Not as many people just doing fantasy sports betting, and so it's a good way to support the channel during kind of the downtime. But yeah, that's gonna be all for today's video. Make sure to give a like and subscribe to the channel. Do appreciate that. If you guys want access to the 905sports.com tools, they're available for $10 a month. Most people charge just $10 for one of the tools that I have offered. I charge that for the whole membership, so take advantage of that. That's gonna be all for today's video. Good luck today, and as always, let's keep cashing.